Morning, Dr. Nyasha.
Good morning, Mark. How can I help you today?
Honestly, it's a bit stressful in the house at the minute because there's things that are happening with Bethel and I have no idea whether you've got anything medically that could help her. So for example, she's cooking and then she just goes upstairs without actually telling anyone that she's cooking. And the next thing you know, I'm sat there working and all of a sudden I have to because I can smell like something's burning, and then the only problem I've got is Bethel's not actually telling me what's going on. So that's leaving me, in a really difficult place. And then the other thing I don't understand, she had to take the kids to school and then go to work after that. So I offered to help by taking both kids. But that somehow ended up being a problem. And I was confused because I was thinking, hang on, I've just offered you some help. But, now it's a problem. So I'm wondering whether medically you've got anything that could kind of help tone her down and just kind of help her hormones just really subdue them.
Tone me down? Help my hormones? You are talking to the doctor without me? Okay, hello everyone. Whilst there was a very funny start to the video, it actually happened. And if you watched our video on Organize Your Life, when good intentions go wrong, you will know that, I did leave eggs on the stove, and sometimes I can be quite irrational. And this is why we have invited Dr. Nyasha on the show today to talk to us about what is going on. So, Dr. Nyasha, so lovely to have you on the show. Please can you introduce yourself so our audience know who you are?
Yeah, my name is Nyasha. I introduce myself as Dr. Nyasha to my patients. My official doctor name is Dr. Mudondo. And I have been a GP now for nearly 4 years. I've been a doctor for goodness knows how long. It's literally nearly 9 years now.
Wow.
And I have a special interest in mental health. So unfortunately, the roles I have is when things get really, really bad and people need to go into hospital, I get to facilitate that. But because of a lot of experience I've had in mental health in general, I tend to obviously want to de-escalate things before that. We don't put everybody into hospital, but we do arrange support and things. So I find it quite fascinating to get into a little bit of at least awareness of what's happening in everybody's lives. Lots of things have changed for us all since COVID, so there's a bit of that going on as well.
Great to have you. And you just mentioned the word awareness, and it's Mental Health Awareness Week, which is also why we're doing this video. So we want to raise some awareness around mental health. And when people say
mental health, do you mean mental health within this home, or do you just generally?
Mark is our comedic factor.
Mental health in all places.
In all places, that's true.
Mental health in all places.
And even in those who are unaware, potentially.
Especially those who are unaware.
Goose fraba. Right, so I want to say, starting with that, I think it's really good to know that your background and you work with patients who end up having to be sectioned and put in hospital. But I think there's a real problem there that people don't talk about mental health early enough, and so then they end up, ending having a crisis.
It definitely happens. So, you're starting, if you imagine everything, if you're cooking or boiling water, you start from zero, really, and it just goes up and up and up. That's kind of what can happen in mental health problems. And what we obviously try and do is stop that process and get things back down. And there's really a lot of things we can do. It's different things for different people, different things for different demographics, but there's always something that we can actually do to try and help.
So, in this situation, Mark is keen to label me as a crazy woman.
First of all, I just wanted to ask, so that people kind of get context, how long have you been Bethel's doctor for? Because, there's a mental history there, and I guess...
Let's have a think. I think I probably was Bethel's doctor just after Micah was born. If I'm not mistaken. Because we were talking about stuff then about Micah. So it's a good 5-ish years, something like that.
So she has a history, and she knows I'm not just a crazy woman. I'm actually quite a rational thinker. I heard your conversation calling me irrational. Sometimes I have irrational thoughts, but it doesn't make me an irrational person.
Well, let's look at this. On the scale of rationality, right? If somebody, let's just say from 0 to 10, 0 being irrational. If somebody asked to offer you help, or if somebody offered help, and it actually got you really worked up and really riled up that somebody's asked you for help, where would anybody place you on that scale? I think
I could probably contribute to that particular question. So, the than one scale.
Oh.
And that's what the problem is with what we're thinking about what this might be. So mental health related, maybe related to having had babies. There is a different scale in somebody's mind to what's actually happening in reality. And unfortunately, that can happen sometimes even with anxiety. But that doesn't mean to say that the scale in your mind is wrong and therefore people are crazy. It makes sense to you. Unfortunately, it's so subconscious that I don't think anyone can explain it. So in your head, well, from my perspective, from when I heard the story, I was like, okay, I get that there's an element of being protective, but then that's all I could pick up from it. But then I can so there's two different scales. That's where things start to get a little bit mismatched. There's going to be the scale that everyone else is sort of seeing as if it's the rational scale, but actually there's a scale in your mind that's also rational. It's not irrational, because we realize that, and unfortunately there's not a lot of things we realize when it comes to sort of the changes after pregnancy. We can tell and infer certain things, but they're completely different changes to your mind before and after. There's a completely different role in your life before and after. What you're doing and how you're doing it literally makes sense. Mother Nature knew that. They were like, listen, let's just put all of this stuff in, because we know baby's gonna be fine. And it's fine.
Oh, okay. I like what you're saying there. Let's just break that down. So you're saying that part of my reaction may be Mother Nature's way of me being a protective mum. Is that what you're saying?
I think that's where the implication is here. So if you remember, like you were saying that there was a lot of things going on that particular day. It was your first day of work. You're not going to be as close to your baby for ages. You don't want to let go of those last few minutes either. Not that you don't trust anyone. It's not that, because when you then think about it rationally, yes, you trust me. You definitely trust Mark, of course. He was also going to take one of your other kids. So it's not that, but it's just there's just a little bit of a change enough in you to not be quite comfortable with the situation. Unfortunately, all of your hormones are still heightened, so a little bit of discomfort is like, I'm not feeling it.
Wow.
I love that. That is so profound. Because you did say to me, is it something to do with mum guilt or something like that? Like, because you wanted to take Micah to school or something like that and tick that box. And exactly what you're saying, like, spend a little bit of time with your child, because you're not going to see them till like 6, which is like a first for me in a long, long time. So thank you. Yeah.
All right.
So how do you explain the eggs then?
The eggs one is very interesting. It's not as fun to describe, but it's very interesting, and it is linked. So there is something called membrane.
Okay, like some people said that doesn't exist. So that really exists?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Wait, are we talking scientifically, or do we,
Or do we just term it membrane?
Actually, scientifically. The funny thing about this is I actually had a conversation about one of my other doctor friends who's a mom, and I was just talking about, like, oh yeah, anxiety, postpartum, and I tend to do this genuinely because I want to find out what it's like, the difference between being a mom and not, kind of thing. And she's like, honestly, like, I could tell that I wasn't then concentrating. It's so that I am not focusing. I just could tell that something was different, enough that I looked at every single patient I saw twice. Wow. Every single patient I saw twice. Because she's like, I don't want to miss something. It's a very interesting thing to note. And it's interesting that she mentioned, obviously, that there was a difference in work, because the studies show that actually there usually isn't a difference in work. And maybe that's because there's enough stress in your body to know that you're kind of having to be extra careful. Maybe there is that. And obviously then at home it's a little bit different. There's a little bit of like rest and comfort there. So the brain fog thing it impacts a lot of things. Memory is involved in that. How irritable you can be is involved in that. How frustrating and stressful things can be is involved.
Things or they can be. Which one? Sorry, did I hear you correctly then?
Are you trying to say how irritating and stressful I can be?
Oh, is that what she said? Oh, right. Okay.
It's actually both as well. This is the funny part about it. It's actually both. There's irritability and irritation from things. So unfortunately, what we're seeing here is actually what we call a perfect storm. Yay!
Excellent. So hormonally then, Nyasha, just for people listening, what would be the difference between me before I had babies and then me after I had babies? Because I do feel like what you're saying, that doctor's saying, I feel it. There's 100% difference. I know I'm different. I can feel that fog. What is causing that fog? And
Trust me, the house feels it. The house does. Certainly, yeah.
I have to put up with him. What do you expect?
Okay, so I think the easiest way to explain hormones here is we can talk about the hormones that are always in your body, and we're going to talk about the hormones that are new to your body. I won't really go into loads of details with this, but I'll try and explain it as briefly as possible. So normally you're going to have some estrogen, some progesterone, everything kind of teeters about, goes up and down, very gently, nothing crazy. Get pregnant. Everything is just dialed up to 1 million. It really is. Those estrogen and progesterones, totally there the whole time, right? Then you're going to be getting new hormones at that point, isn't it? So you've got your HCG, which is what we do to test pregnancy. It is there as well. Does it make changes to your brain? Why, yes, it does. So does everything else. But it's there, obviously, to protect the baby. So you have those things, right? So you go through the pregnancy, and you've got the new hormones in there, you've got the old hormones in there. Okay, it's all right. There's a little bit of other things to mention, like cortisol, which is one of the stress hormones. It is there as well. Fine, you go through pregnancy. Okay, great. What do you think happens when the baby's born? Give birth to the baby, everything plummets. Completely goes out of this. So you've got this new wave of everything else that's having to be dealt with. And you get more other hormones. So now you're trying to bond with baby, oxytocin comes into play. Much more of it as well. Prolactin, to make milk if you're going to breastfeed. To be fair, it makes milk whether you're going to breastfeed or not. Is there. To the point where when we test people, the normal blood test, this is a normal patient who's coming in for bloods. If I check their prolactin and I say, are they pregnant? It's like, oh yeah, don't worry about the fact that the number is ridiculously high. Because it is. And if they were not pregnant, we're sending them for scans to say, do they have a tumor? It's that huge.
Wow. Do they have a tumor?
That's what we ask.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
Wow. So you think, if you imagine, giving you so much more, right? And that stuff doesn't stop. Are you going to breastfeed for 6 months? Are you going to breastfeed for a year? Are you going to breastfeed for 18 months? All of that's still in your system, right? And then we're going to add the fact that we've given you a beautiful bundle of joy in your arms. And they cry, and you can't sleep, and you're not eating as well, and you can't exercise because you've had whatever it is happen during the birth. All of those things, literally every single one of them on its own is enough to make you anxious. If you don't eat well, you're anxious. If you don't sleep well, you're anxious. If you don't exercise as much as you should, really, you're anxious. We give you all of that, plus the hormones, plus the baby you're taking care of. Yeah, no
Plus
pressure.
Cadbury's.
Plus Cadbury's. I mean, to be fair, it kind of
Cadbury's chocolate.
helps a little bit. It helps a little bit.
Yeah, but not. I think what he's referring to is my binging of chocolate, because that makes it worse. And I think I'm actually allergic to chocolate, because when I do eat a lot of chocolate, it goes worse. It goes so bad. My irrational thinking is just horrendous.
No, well, yes, there is a little bit of that, but also, if you're trying to use it to get, again, a little bit of happy hormones, a little bit of satisfaction, your dopamine, your storytelling, and all of those, it's going to also affect things, right? But yeah, so those are the hormones, but the other thing that also happens is that your brain actually genuinely changes as well after you have a baby. So there's a central part of your brain called the hypothalamus. It's the one that kind of controls pretty much all your hormones, and it does it in various ways. The space doesn't get bigger, but the neurons get bigger. That means they're more sensitive to a smaller change in what's happening. So yeah, smaller things make you more anxious. Smaller things can make you more stressed. You also have more of the stress hormone in your body anyway. Again, not helpful. Then you get there's a part of your brain called the amygdala. It gets smaller after you give birth. So your fear response gets smaller, which means you can lift cars off your baby. It's literally that.
Oh.
You can go through fires. It's literally going to be, again, protective for the
That
child.
is so interesting, because the funny thing is, if I was by myself walking, whatever, and a bee flew by, I might be like, ah, and but when I'm with my baby, I'm like, you will not, I will do whatever.
That is literally so subconscious. You're not even going to realize that you do that or you've done that until somebody points it out. And I think this is what happened, obviously, at the start of this video where
Wow.
I was like, what is happening? The thing with the egg, definitely brain fog, and I can understand that. But certainly, a lot of these things they are differences, and they're differences that are meant to be there. What we need to try and figure out is how to come out of certain things that are obviously not as good. The thing with the egg, we don't really want that to happen.
It sounds like from what you're saying, I'm dealing with a completely new person.
You're dealing with a completely new version.
Does that mean I have to redo my vows?
You know what? I have a dress ready. Just let me know.
I love this. So you know what? That's a really good question,
that is
Mark, because I
mind-blowing.
think a lot of people, they say, we get married and we're all happy and everything's great, and then the kids come. And, I think people blame the children and say, maybe it's because the actual child itself. But actually, I think there's so many changes that happen.
And it's just not enough knowledge.
So many changes that happen. I don't even think that we really understand all of the things. We're looking at, like we've taken bloods of people, we've done scans of people. Everyone's impact of all of this stuff is also going to be very different, isn't it? And then things like support are literally paramount at this point in time. That makes the differences to exposure.
But what if they don't want the help?
You still offer it.
Oh, okay.
You still offer it. Because what we're trying to do is make new links for safety. And to be fair, that was the first day, right? Do you think if you offer it the next day, she's going to say no? She's not going to say no. She's going to say yes. But it's because it's a new learning. You have to remember that these things are so subconscious that you have to bring them almost into the conscious. And offering is very much giving that into the conscious as well. Yeah.
I love that. And I love what you said about on the first time you do it, she might not accept it. But on the next time you do it, she actually will. And that's the truth. Because with you, I am very much like that. At first, I'm like, no, I don't want that. And then the next day, if you do the same thing, I'll be like, because I've had time to process it, and like he's just trying to help you, and actually by him doing that, it actually would free up your time. So then I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, of course you can take the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also because we're able to facilitate the conversation.
Yes.
To be okay with, that was uncomfortable. What was the cause for that? And then we can go through all of it and break it down and actually get to understand it. But this, what you're saying now,
so profound,
is a paradigm shift because. Unless you're aware, and I think that's what you talked about at the beginning, where a lot of people lack awareness, and because they lack awareness, they don't really know how then to approach.
And then they blame, and I'm not saying like, I'm not sitting here like a victim, because I'm not, but they blame like, oh, my wife is so irrational, my wife is this different person. Well, she is this different person.
Well, I think because you were the perpetrator in that.
I was the perpetrator.
If there is to be a perpetrator,
what?
You would have been the perpetrator.
What?
I'm only joking.
We know the things that happen with mums postpartum. We know more about mums, and there's a lot more different hormonal changes in it. But there are actually hormonal changes for men as well.
Oh.
Because as much as we want mum to be fearless, we also want less aggression. And it's the same hormones that do this in the guys. So guys' brains, they also are altered by this. Oh. Unfortunately, still not that much is known about
research.
Yeah, and this is why, like when we start thinking about like friendship and relationships and things, this is when it actually starts to come in a bit better to me, because you're looking at your friend and you're like, girl, she's going through it. Oh man, he's tired, he's going through it. All of that is coming into play, but it is very different. And we're talking about sleep deprivation and stuff. It's not like the dads are not sleep deprived as well. They are. Haven't.
Not always. Not all dads. There are some dads who never experience sleep deprivation. But I like it because I genuinely came to you, didn't I? Because you after we posted the last video, I came to you and I said, well, she sent it to me, didn't you? You sent it to me, and somebody had said to you, like, hey, this sounds similar to me. And I was like, am I going crazy? Like, what is going on?
So what's actually what promised me, this is the funniest thing. It's actually because my sister said we are very similar. So if you imagine, your post-baby changes are stuff that I do normally, but then this is normal for me.
Okay, that's worrying.
It's very worrying. It's very worrying. I don't know what happened. It's just one of those things. But I can tell you that I definitely have had brain fog. I've noticed it's different because I've now started to match because I'm a night person. So I work now nights, and it's much better for me. I am still brain fogged in the mornings. I'm sometimes brain fogged at weird times, but usually I'm very, very clear-headed in this. So you learn your body and you learn how to sort of kind of change things.
And please just remind our viewers that you don't actually perform any surgery, because nobody wants to know that you got brain fog whilst performing surgery, and it's like, oh, sorry, I just lost my mind. Where was I? Is that a pancreas?
I'll tell you, I actually used to do brain surgery in the mornings.
Oh, wow.
Brain fog. But then I used to perform surgery, not brain surgery. It was eye surgery. This was my bad. In the mornings, but I didn't have it as well. So I don't know. Maybe there's, like what we're saying. There's going to be things in people's lives that can actually change the way things are. Maybe there's something that happened with me with age. More of those exams that we were doing. Anything that might have put me into a bit more of a stressful situation that changed me. Yeah. And I've had to learn that as well. And that's okay. Look, the thing is, it's just looking at the things we can do. The things we can do to get help. I know that Bethel's got support. I'm 100% fully aware that she's got support. And equally, I do too, I mean, no kids, but, I have support and I know that I have that. And then it's going to be your basic things again. Do you drink enough water? Do you eat enough? Are you getting enough sleep? Those are actually things that will make a difference.
Yeah.
Support, good food, good water, good sleep, and then exercise. And it does make a difference. Because remember, we're saying that those neurons are bigger and sensitive. They're going to be sensitive for changes up or down, even if it's a small change down as well.
Yeah, and that's what you reassured me really, because I was like, do I need medication? And you were like, no, you don't need medication. You're not at that point yet. And
I mean, if you've got any medication, that could just medication called love. That's what we
My
need.
prescription is full sleep.
full night's sleep. Oh my gosh, like legit. No, it's true. It's true. And I think this is the thing. It's like if you're going through this, if you've just had a baby, even if you haven't just had a baby and you're going through different anxieties, there are things that you can do. Get yourself a good doctor. That's number one. Get yourself some good support around you.
Yeah.
Get out of the house. Get out of the house by all means. Just try and get out of the house. Eat well. I know that when I don't eat well, we were talking about that this morning. I was having like a really low moment because I haven't been eating well this past week.
Yeah.
You know, work out and all that kind of stuff, and you do tend to feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. The other thing I was just going to mention, in case people weren't quite sure what we were just discussing and referring to, these things are part of anxiety.
Yes.
Post-baby anxiety, the correct term being postnatal anxiety. But equally, like we're saying, the thing about anxiety is it can affect anyone really. What we're missing, unfortunately, is that we don't seem to group together mums when we're talking about it. And you know, this is a genuine shame, because this particular year, Mental Health Awareness Week is about anxiety, specifically about anxiety. And I looked at the people who were considered to be high risk, and they are. They've got kids on there. They've got people from sort of protected communities as well, and then they've got like a few other groups, but they didn't mention mothers specifically. And I
Wow.
wonder whether that was, I wonder whether that's because it's hard to do research on, because this is your postnatal period. Your friend is going to start theirs in a month. Another one has finished it 3 years ago. Maybe that we're failing that. Like,
I wonder whether there's some stigma around it though, because whenever I talk about it really openly when I feel down or whatever, and sometimes I post stuff on my WhatsApp status, and one time I posted when I was like really
Get a
low,
lot of kickback,
and
isn't it?
I had a lot of kickback from some people. Yeah, like I hope you're not doing that or that kind of thing, and it's like, I hope you're not doing what? Like,
I suppose it's that thing of people look up to you as a role model, and so they want you to model being strong, not ever feeling down or anything like that. And I think that's where the downfall is. Yeah, go on.
To be honest, I think you're right. I think maybe there's also a bit of an element of people kind of not happy to look in the mirror.
yeah.
They would much rather, let's not talk about it full stop, because, well, gosh, Beth was talking about this thing that might have been happening to me, and I didn't get support, and, that sort of thing, it can be elements of that. It's a genuine shame, because honestly, like, when we're talking about mental health as a whole, 1 in every 4 people has something that's mentally going to be different for them, makes them vulnerable, or actual diagnosis. 1 in 4.
And that's really interesting
More
because
than almost every other disease.
exactly. And the thing is, like, I think it's this whole thing of mental health, like people, especially if there's a spiritual element to it, people be like, oh, is she possessed, or is this what's going on? And it's like, but if I had like a physical ailment, like my hand was broken, right, I would go to the doctor and I'd say, doctor, I broke my hand. Or if do you know what I mean? Like, people are people are easier to talk, like, feel easier to talk about physical problems, but then because if something's to do with the mind, but then people don't realize that actually a problem to do with the mind could be linked to physical problems like hormonal changes and things like that. It doesn't mean that you're like off your nut and
That's a good point.
They're not, your brain is not in a separate part to you. You're literally, it's in your body. It will literally cause a lot of disease. I get acid problems anytime something gets a bit stressing. I'm like, oh yeah, I know what happened. And I just put myself back on some treatment. But it's interesting you mentioned the spiritual side as well, because one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is about Elijah. After he won against Jezebel and was suicidal.
That's good.
God sent an angel, an actual angel from heaven, to say to him, go to sleep, take a nap. And when you get up, I'll give them something to eat, okay? And he did that twice.
Take a break, mate.
He did that twice.
Have a Kit Kat.
I literally put that on my status, I think, sometime last year, and I put it as arise and eat, which is exactly what the angel said to him. I'm like, you know what? When things are bad, have something to eat, take a nap, wake up and see how it goes. It really is.
That is
good.
wow, I love that. I absolutely love that. Like, I love the fact, I've never ever thought about it like that, but that God's actually giving you like a prescription. He's like,
Hey, that's why I asked, have you got any prescription? And that was actually good.
So that's the prescription.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be medicine, does it? But
No.
it does need to be. It needs to be effective. And I think that's where we're talking about the exercise, we're talking about good sleep. And for the record, I know that people talk about, babies wake up at night. Of course, we're not expecting you to not be there for your child. That's not what we're saying. But sleep when you can. Get help to sleep when you can.
Exactly.
You have friends and family around you who you really can actually sort of depend on, and they can help. It's fine.
Yes.
But I think it's just getting into that groove of getting used to asking for help, getting used to knowing that the help is there.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about postnatal anxiety or anxiety after people have babies and start raising babies. This doesn't include anyone else who's obviously going through anything that might be related. If you're feeling like you can't really explain what's going on, you're feeling more anxious, things don't feel calm inside of you or outside of you, just get help, because little changes in the right direction in things are actually going to make a big difference. And we're talking about medical help, we're talking about support from family, we're talking about sleep, we're talking about being able to eat well and exercise.
Thank you so much. I've actually really enjoyed this because finally I don't feel like a crazy person, and finally
The thing that actually began it all is because I was actually watching, I don't know if I told you this when I sent you the video. I watched a video of a mom who was saying that she was asked to have her baby in a wedding. And then she just couldn't get it past her. She was so anxious, and she was like, look, I can't let my baby do this. She didn't go to the wedding. The baby didn't go to the wedding. Everybody was mad at her because of that. And she just couldn't explain the anxiety. I think in her head, she just felt like she couldn't keep a baby safe. And that's it. Just a little bit of support. Nobody has to be so mad at you. The flower girl is not the center of attention. Just let the mom go. It's okay.
I think what I've realised from this conversation is that I'm the one that's nutty. Because the two women on the call right now are both normal with their...
No. Do you know what? I'll tell you what it is, Mark.
No, I'm only joking. I'm only messing, but...
You're on a boat. Think of it like you're on a boat. If you stand still on a boat, you're far more likely to have more, the motion sickness, isn't it? Than if you try and sway with it. Just sway with it. It's okay.
And I think, to be fair, it's a really good point that you mentioned about swaying with the boat, and that's exactly what I've done in most of these cases anyway.
Yeah.
It's, honestly, initially it's jarring. It's like, whoa, wow. I mean, am I the one that's crazy? Yeah, I think I'm, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then I'm okay with swaying with the boat, that I'm the one that's a bit loopy in that moment, and I'm just like, yeah, that's cool. I guess what I asked was unreasonable, so next time I'll just try and tone it down.
No. My ask was reasonable in this scale, but not in the other scale.
Not in the other scale.
And I think
that's been the lesson. And honestly, based off of what you said today, it is a great learning for me, because going forward, I know how to, I suppose, measure myself within that conversation. It's like, oh, actually, I understand Bethel's actions because...
Yeah, and also, what message could you give to other dads or husbands in the scenario?
I was going to say, I thought I just did that, but anyway, I'll just do that again. That was my message to the dads.
Message to the dad.
Message to the dad. I think the most important thing from my learnings has just been to be patient. To understand that actually, your partner, your wife, is in a completely different place, emotionally, physically, and so, if anything, I just need to be there to support her through that journey. Be patient, and some of the things that you think are helping might not actually be helping the situation. And if anything, if that does happen, then yeah, just back up and row your boat. And if you need to just put the oars on the side, put the oars on the side and just chill out. Go with the flow. And if you're going towards the rapids, just go with the flow and find your rhythm within that,
Yes. That's a good lesson.
Ride the rapids.
Ride the rapids. But it's been a pleasure.
Let's be supportive.
Yes.
Let's support moms.
Yes.
I mean, I've got friends who've got kids, and I'm just like, hi, I'm coming to your house to hold your kid for a few days.
Yeah.
Can't do anything else, I can just hold your kid.
No, I really like that. I think that my message to other mums is don't suffer in silence. If you don't have a supportive partner, get a few supportive friends because they can also help. And if you're the partner, take Mark's advice and help your wife out of the situation. We recover quickly because I feel safe and I can say, Mark, I feel like this. And then he'll say, oh, okay, but this is what I meant. I didn't mean that. And then I feel safe again. And I can say, okay, so the next time he does that, he didn't mean that, he meant this. So create a safe space.
I suppose, the other thing that I was thinking about is, we always talk about this, where we have time alone. And that allows me to actually process my thoughts and know exactly where I'm at with regards to that in particular.
Yes.
So for example, that situation happened. Yes, it was jarring to begin with. How do I feel about that? And going forward, what am I going to do? But the only way you can get to that place is if you actually allow yourself some time.
Some reflective space.
Reflective space.
Yeah, exactly. So guys, get support too. Get someone that you can go to.
We should be supportive. When they say it takes a village, they weren't kidding. It really does.
It does.
Well, you do know we live in a village, right?
Yes. And I'm also somebody's village.
Yeah.
Exactly, you are my village. You're a member of my village.
That's true.
And thank you for being a member of my village, because sometimes I'm like panicking and I can just send you a quick voice note like, do I need to be panicking? Should I be calling 111? And you're like, it's okay, they're fine. I'm like, okay. Whew. It's just that mom instinct, isn't it? Like, but no, it's been really awesome.
But the instinct is there for a reason. We like the instinct. We just need to find a way to make it work. And we're basically trying to merge those two scales, really. That's what we're trying to do. Really.
Exactly, because we are not, we're not protecting our children from lions anymore, right? You know?
No.
Yeah, we're protecting them for other things. But it's not like...
I guess the last thing I was thinking about, Dr. Nyasha, is if people wanted to get a hold of you or wanted to get support from you or some kind of level of advice, how could they get a hold of you? You know, how do they contact you?
So for my intimately close family members and friends, they have my phone number, definitely included. But what I do actually offer, just in general, because my template is literally haywire. I have an Instagram that I've opened up. It's just my name, it's Dr. Nyasha. And yeah, people can just drop a line. I don't mind talking about this stuff. I absolutely like to. And the threshold I tend to give advice for is it safe, is it not safe? And so people can use that to get more advice if needed.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I love about you. Like when I talk to you, you know, you will always say, I think you need to go to your GP, or I think you need to go to somebody and say this. So you don't like diagnose or treat me in terms of like giving me medicine or whatever like that, but you definitely will say to me, take your child to the GP at this point. Like, and I've seen your Instagram page. Yes, exactly. And I've seen your Instagram page, and I know that you also offer support to people who want to become doctors and want to get into the medical field, which is also really, really awesome. So if that's you, you want to hit up Nyasha's Instagram page, and she has so much information to share with you. Thank you.